Hello, my loves. Hope you're well. So, I am wondering if you guys have been feeling this sort of standstill void energy, maybe yesterday over the last few days, sort of leading up. And that's like in the physical world, there seems to be a very clear standstill. But in the energies, you may feel like you're sort of swinging from feeling completely embodied in the new energies to flip-flopping into the old energies and the old patterns kind of intensely. And what this is being shown to me is that we are embodying into the new and sort of almost like glitching in and out sometimes, but it's like where we're making the switch over is my sense around it if you've been experiencing anything like this. And it does feel a bit different than what I've seen in the past. In the past, it would feel like we would be in one energy a lot longer, where this is almost like a revolving door, where it's like really sort of flip-flopping. I believe from what I'm being shown, part of it is that we are planting deeper seeds of our intention more directly into the physical and starting to harvest some of those seeds that were planted a while ago. And then on the other side, we're sort of weeding out of the garden what was from the past. And some of these things were a positive thing. They were part of what got us to this point. So none of this like weeding or shifting is necessarily about getting rid of anything. Oh, they're showing me it's more of like thinning. So you know how when you're planting a garden, you plant a bunch of the same seeds. So say if you have zucchini, the package will say to plant three or four of the seeds in one space and see which ones bloom or blossom. And then you have to sort of thin out and choose which plant you want to have space to grow. This feels really, really, really important right now because it's not when we're going and we're planting seeds, it's important to plant the seeds continuously, right? So that things are blossoming as you're moving forward. And sometimes those things are going to blossom and present and grow into forests. Sometimes they're going to grow into a little bush. Sometimes they're going to sprout and they're going to dissolve. They're going to go back to the earth. And then sometimes you're going to have a whole bunch of opportunities sprouting at the same time. Now, what being shown is you can sort of thin out which ones you want to work with now, right? And let the other ones go back to dormancy. Or you can repot them or replant them in a different space where they have room to grow, right? There's lots of different ways that we can work with the seeds that are sprouting. And it feels important that you're honoring what needs to be weeded, what needs to be repotted, what needs to be replanted directly into the ground, what needs to be fertilized, what needs a lot more space to grow, and when it's time to just be still, right? And let it sort of sort out. If you're uncertain, that's okay too. And then you sort of take the steps as you're aware of what feels aligned. This feels important because my sense is that where the masculine and feminine collectives are resetting, a big part of what is happening is that recalibration and reharmonization into where are we now? What's realistic that can be worked with in the physical world now and moving into the near future, right? What is no longer necessary because you have both grown so much since those original seeds were planted? Which of those seeds are sprouting and growing and turning into gardens or forests, right? And it's all okay no matter what it is. What this is really about is you giving yourself the space to surrender to the higher power, to surrender to see what actually wants to be birthed and born and harvested now, right? Because it doesn't mean that those other things are lost or not going to return or resurface at another time. It means that you planted enough seeds and you surrendered enough to allow the ones that were needing to sprout, not only for yourself and your counterpart, but for the overarching planetary collective. Because whatever seeds are sprouting or growing or thriving and flourishing are the exact perfect seeds that are needed for this time. And what I'm seeing is if many of you have been sort of focused on one or two areas of your garden, right? Let's say your self-love and your shadow work, say really focusing on your self-responsibility, and now you are growing into the next phase and you're being called to start putting your creations out to the collective, or you're being guided to open back up to opening into relationships, friendships, or even opening to a partnership or reopening the door to reunion in the physical world with your counterpart, or some of all of the above. Maybe you're sensing these things opening in new ways. You're uncertain about them right now, and you're being called to just be still. This actually makes a lot of sense for where the energies are at. I believe today Mercury's going into retrograde. We have, I think, Saturn in retrograde and a couple other planets in retrograde. And I did notice a few of those are in fire signs like Aries and Leo. And the fire signs are what give us that action movement forward. So, as these energies of communication and sort of the action energies are in that retrograde motion, this is the perfect time to be more still and more present, to connect with source and take actions as you're guided, but it may feel that some of those actions are very deliberate, maybe slower than normal, very maybe one step at a time. Or you may find that you're revisiting seeds that you planted from the past, right? Because we're in retro. So things that you planted a long time ago that are now starting to bloom and blossom. And it's actually very appropriate to take action on those things, even within retrograde periods. You're going to know what feels right and aligned because it's going to feel open, right? It's going to feel supportive. It's not going to feel draining or pulling on you. Ooh, that draining energy reminds me of something. 2 days ago on my other channel, I posted a video around practical tips to releasing your draining codependent relationships and stepping into more interdependent, satisfying connections. Okay. And this might be within the relationships you are already in, but it's ways to sort of tell the difference between what is codependent and what is interdependent, because there is a very fine line within those things. And we touched on that in the video because I've even seen here on our channel in the comments people sort of projecting this thought of like watching videos being codependent. But the thing is if you're taking responsibility for yourself, like we spoke about, right? This all intertwines with those original seeds. If you're taking that personal responsibility and that self-focus and you're working on your shadows and your own parts of things, you're moving into the independent energies, right? And you're holding others accountable to their responsibilities as well. And this helps to move out of the codependent energies. But it's also important to understand that as we move into very independent energies, it's also exceedingly important that we're comfortable opening up to interdependent resources and connections that help us to continue to grow. Because getting ultra independent can become a trauma response, and it can actually be a block to receiving our partnerships, our unions, our friendships, right? So that opening up to interdependent connections and supports is a very important part of unity consciousness, of union energies. Okay. So I'm going to drop that video in the pinned comment. It's free over on my Danielle Wilk channel. And we're going to be talking a lot more about these interdependent energies over there. And yes, they absolutely are essential practical guidance to your counterpart connection, but these are also very relatable and tangible energies that you can apply to all of your relationships in the world, in your life. And I actually think that that's something that's very, very important for twin flames and divine counterparts to be incorporating into all areas of their lives, because these initiations, these experiences, yes, they were intended to help you to be able to hold and sustain sacred union. But the overarching energies of the counterparts, of the twin flames, of the unions, is to bring these higher unity consciousness energies back to our planet, right? To reseed those, or to nourish the seeds that were already here in the true energies, right? So this is all interweaving together, right? And I know many of you are already doing this. I know that many of you have your own businesses and your own coaching and your own energy work and your own artwork and music and all of the gorgeous creations that you're creating. So you can apply these interdependent energies to everything that you're doing, right? So I do that within Harmonious Hearts in my services. I come to offer supports, but my supports are intended not to replace your own truth and intuition, but actually to inspire you to trust yourself in your own intuition more deeply, to embody more directly into your own essence, right? So, however you are planting your seeds, however you are harvesting the gifts of your union, of your internal union energies, share those in the world as you're guided, right? I feel this is a lot of the energies that are coming up in the next phase. I know many of you have been sharing, but I also feel that we're building momentum, and the gifts, the lessons that have been learned, the gifts that have been embodied as a result of the intensity of your twin flame divine counterpart initiation are gifts. The shadows you were brave enough to face resulted in these harvests, right? In this harvest energy. And all of those things that you have been learning for yourself, my loves, those are the gifts that you may be sharing in the world, right? Those were the reasons that we chose to face such deep, dark intensity. We went into the shadows to find the solutions, right? And so now there will be different ways that you share those solutions. Let yourself blossom. Let yourself bloom, my loves, and set that intention to share and to care in the interdependent energies. It's beautiful to be independent. stand on your own in your inner union energies, and also open up to reciprocation in the interdependent energies. That self trust that we talked about, right? Trusting yourself, embodying into yourself sets the foundation and the stage for the genuine interdependent reciprocity. Okay, so I'm going to drop that session down in the pin comment as well for any of you that might not have known. I recorded a trust and reciprocity support meditative session. And again, that free video around the practical tips for uh, dissolving codependence and replacing that with interdependence, and sort of little tips and perspectives to notice the differences in the nuances so that you can embody into the interdependence and replace the codependence, still supporting yourself, still receiving supports, still supporting others, and allowing them to also step into their independence in new and different ways. All right, my loves. I'm very, very excited for this next phase. And I know that it's just sort of starting to simmer, but I'm looking forward again to sharing more reciprocity with you here and over on Danielle Wilt. I would love to hear from you. How is this landing? I think that we're going to have some fun these next few weeks. A lot is ready to be rebirthed and reborn. That's how this feels to me. All right, my loves, have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll see you soon. Much love. Bye.